emailed earlier and said that she would not be able to attend today, so she will not be there. Amy, are you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you able to roll that?
The only person that I'm aware of that emailed me was Jeff Holliday. He was not going to be able to attend. I have not heard anything from Russell or Keith.
Okay.
Or Barry or Richard.
So Barry just logged on. So let me take roll call. Chair Stevens.
Present.
Regent Cox. Regent Hamilton. Regent Herding.
Here.
Regent Martin.
Here.
Regent Smith. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3 voting members present. So we may proceed.
All right. Scroll on down. You have received, well, we'll show them very briefly the minutes of the last meeting. Okay, and well, I'll call the meeting to order, and we have had the attendance. Introduction is, Buddy, you want to introduce our guest? You're Larry?
Sure. So we've got Lance Mann from Dean Dorton. Our internal auditor is here today to present as well.
Okay.
And I think I see Christopher Boland is on the call as well. He also works for Dean Dorton as part of our internal audit team.
All right. We've already called the roll.
We need to do the minutes.
Okay.
Approval of the minutes.
Yes, approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which was March the 13th.
I make a motion to approve.
Yeah, here a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. We do that by consensus, Pam?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay.
It's the internal audit update.
Okay. Buddy, I'll return that back to you.
Okay, well, I'll present to Lance Mann from Dean Dorton to go over our internal audit and provide an update of where they're at this point in time.
Thank you, buddy.
We have a copy of this.
Do you mind if I share my screen and I can do it?
Yeah, that would be great. If you want to do that, that'd be wonderful.
Can y'all see that?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. All right, well, I think I know everybody on the call, but my name is Lance Mann. I am a director at Internal Audit, specializing in outsourced internal audit, and here to present the results of our audits to date through really through April 30 of 2023. During this audit, we're going to report on a variety of IT related things. We've kind of summarized it all together as critical IT process resiliency, but when we get to that point, you'll see that it's a variety of different areas that we've been looking at in there. We did some human resource related audits and hiring status changes and termination procedures, and a business office audit at Western Kentucky. You'll see here, this is a summary of our findings. We had actually no findings on the Western Kentucky and on the human resource audits. We have a couple of what we call other observations that we'll point out to you, things that aren't really where a control was failing, but things that we thought it was our responsibility to at least report back. And we've got a few things to report in the critical IT process resiliency audit. And please ask me questions as we go along. I'm happy to answer them. And the Western Kentucky audit, so for the business office audits, we look at key controls that are in place in the business office at the individual colleges, purchasing, ProCard, some HR related things, I-9 related things, cash receipts, and other approvals that are available there. So we didn't have any control issues there, but we did notice two things that we wanted to report back. One, we noted differences in start date and I-9 date on a couple of employees. It's primarily because they were instructors that, kind of come and go. And so the comment isn't really a finding. It's more, we think that, someone within your HR group should at least investigate whether or not, due to the seasonality of instructor position, a new I-9 not required for each semester due to the continuing employment exceptions within the U.S. labor laws. And so just kind of tracking all of that and paying attention to it.
Lance, if you would explain to people like me, what is an I-9?
An I-9 is a required form when you go to work for somebody that helps you get set up for payroll taxes and make sure that you're a U.S. citizen. And it proves that you are eligible to work in the United States of America.
And most of those have a start date on them. Is that correct?
It's required to be filled out within 3 days of starting employment.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. The other area that we just wanted to point out to the board is, and I think we've talked about this in the past, is each of the colleges is billed for some of what they call shared services. So really the services being offered by the system office, a lot of that cost gets pushed down to the individual colleges in their, quote unquote, annual management bill kind of a thing. And Western Kentucky shared that they worry that the amount they're currently being billed is no longer what they would consider a fair amount. I guess it was based on a census done based on enrollment many years ago, or at least several years ago, and hasn't been updated in some time. And in their mind, if a new census was taken, their monthly or annual expenses would go down. We thought it was at least something valid that should be communicated to you all so that you could consider it in the future and maybe consider some recurring evaluation of how much individual colleges are being billed for expenses.
I'm going to let Mr. Combs answer that question because that has been asked. Thing is, so Buddy, if you'd respond to Lance what you are doing or what we're doing in the future in reference to that. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So basically, actually starting for FY24, we have actually changed that method for all the colleges in regards to the system-wide contracts. You are correct that we had been using a metric from basically 2016 on tuition, based on tuition revenue. That was changed for this upcoming budget season for FY24. We're actually using the FY22 tuition revenue to project that. And we did get agreement from all the college business officers at the last business affairs team meeting that we would review that process every 2 years moving forward and not let it linger like we had in the past.
Perfect. You've got a check mark next to that one already, it sounds like.
Well, that's been a little tension, not with Buddy, but of getting that thing is. And then somewhere going through this, Buddy, I'll let you and Larry. We have colleges have said, just like you said, Lance, they've been overcharged for various reasons. And so we're trying to, I'm going to let, as I said, Larry and Buddy address that very quickly of what we're looking at to rectify that, not only for the future, but what has some of the things helped in the past. So, Buddy, I'll let you, Larry, to say we can't do anything right now, but what is in the pipeline, I guess.
I assume, sir, that you're talking about what we're working on with the state auditor's office.
Yes,
And
yes.
they have asked us to hold on doing anything in regards to the carry forward balance of where it sits right now. They've asked for additional documentation, and they have until Friday. I've actually been on the phone today again with Julie Skeeters for some other documentation from Forbes on previous audits. And then they're going to let us know the scope of work, what that will be, timeline, and hopefully the ultimate outcome is that they're going to give us some counsel or advice on what the fund balance should be, how we should be calculating it, and how we move forward.
Thank you. All right, Lance.
All righty. Thank you. In our next audit, it was around, we did several human resource related audits. We did I-9 audit, and this one was hiring and status changes and termination related audits. I think we have one more to do this fiscal year that'll probably carry slightly into next year. Very positive, no significant findings of any sort. One of the things we did notice is that KCTCS employee file maintenance is being performed primarily at the college level. Some of the information requested took a long time for system HR to provide due to the inconsistent procedures with uploading data to the employee's electronic file. Really just making the recommendation here to at least review current processes to make sure that you've got an efficient process in place for employee information systems. And that could be given to whomever. I believe you'll have some open positions in HR that you're looking to fill potentially, and that could be given to whomever that future individual is.
Dr. Ferguson, you want to address that very briefly? Or you want
Yes.
Yeah, go
Very
ahead.
briefly, we're taking a very hard look at our HR unit, particularly here in the system office. It's even part of our engagement with Huron. And so we are looking at staffing within that area, what adequate staffing should be, and where some of these assignments should be, if they should be decentralized and at the colleges. But we haven't made those decisions yet. We expect to make those soon, we hope.
Thank
Good.
you.
And I like the approach of sort of engaging in it in a holistic fashion.
Yes, sir.
And so the last one will take a little while longer to go through, but it's also very complicated. So I'm going to try not to dig into the real nuances of it. Was what we call critical IT resiliency. In essence, what that very complex phrase means is how resilient will your team be if certain things happen? You know, if somebody were to quit or if something bad were to happen, how quickly would you be able to just keep running without having any issues or complications? And so we looked at a variety of different areas where we think are critical IT processes for resiliency. This audit was actually requested by your IT group for us to come and look at. And so they wanted to understand where we believe they were resilient or not. And so as I'll point out at the beginning, we had one high risk area where we don't think you're highly resilient, 4 moderate risk issues, and 5 low risk areas. The biggest risk was in the Director of User Experience and Admin's System Program Analysis. They focus on Active Directory within PeopleSoft and identity management. I guess this is creating a great deal of effort in resolving issues due to not having somebody in that seat that's responsible for these processes. We believe even once that position is filled, you need to make sure you have a backup assigned that understands how to fill that role. And so you may need you need at least one person to start doing this role that's not currently doing it. And you may need to either cross-train someone else or hire a second person to help fill this gap in your current control system. I won't go through the low-risk areas in detail. You are doing very well on process owners for Azure and Microsoft D365 and the deployment, identity management, and maintenance area. You've got a good team there.
Larry, I would like, Lance, I would like for Larry to comment on that, the red area, because I like to put him on the spot. So, Larry,
well, you're very good at that, Chair Stevens, but I can comment on that. I've had some extensive conversations with Chris House, who runs this area for us. We have identified that is a vacant position that does need to be filled. It was vacant, and so we're moving forward and filling that position. And I believe he may have notified your firm as well, Lance, that was our status. But we are going to fill that position to rectify that so that it moves from high to a different color for us.
Yep, he has. Unfortunately for us, it stays high until you have actually filled it.
Yes, sir.
Yep. In Blackboard, emergency notification systems and enterprise proxy systems, you've got good team members in place. You've got good cross-training in place. All things considered, these are areas that are operating very effectively. Under PeopleSoft Campus Solutions, the process owner includes a trainer with training materials and well-documented training process. The training is designed to assess and training new personnel. However, there's currently a position that's been vacant since the January-February timeframe, and responsibilities have currently been assumed by another person, but there's very little capacity. If one more thing were to go wrong, this is an area that will be highly at risk.
Lance, I see that supposedly, Chris, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Jump in here and tell us very briefly some of the things, instead of putting Larry on the spot, what you're working for to correct those. Chris?
Yeah, and thank you, Chair Stevens. I think the key takeaway for most of these items, especially the moderate items, are we have some opportunities within Technology Solutions for some additional cross-training. And in some instances, we have some opportunities for some succession planning, which will add to what Lance was referring to as our resiliency to be able to respond when folks move on from the institution or we have events that happen. And so, again, I think our focus going forward is really going to make sure that we address the vacancy that was noted, as well as perform some additional cross-training and succession planning in these areas.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, Joe, now you're the one at the colleges, so does that sound, not putting you on the spot, but I like to see the people that are supposed to be the knowledge of that. Joe, how do you feel about those responses that Chris has made?
Well, I think they're great. I think identity management is I don't want to say the buzzword, it's the big issue these days in cybersecurity, and it all starts with identity management. I think there's even the SACS standard that talks about identity management. So I think it's good to have a person or a team in there to do that and do it well. So filling that position, I think, is a great idea. And cross-training, yeah, I mean, always. That's sometimes in IT, we get into these silos where we get specialized in exactly what we do. And some of that breaking out of those silos to do some cross-training, I think is really good. So I think Chris is doing a wonderful job, better than I could do. So thank you, Dr. House.
All right, Lance, thank you. Go ahead.
No, I mean, and that's similar. So the orange ones are generally, you're currently handling the process, but they're strained and probably can't withstand one more change unless you get some more cross-training or succession planning in place. Low is you are in good shape, assuming not too many bad things were to happen. And so you've got some areas where you need to do some cross-training, succession planning. You've got some areas you need to hire in. Not that you want to ignore the low-risk areas, but but you do have some things you could at least focus on in the IT space over the next 12 months.
Thank you.
And then finally, follow up on prior action plans. Right now, KCTCS is 100% compliant with the things that they said they would get done by the time we did this report. There's a few things that are still open, working on the conflict of interest for employees in financial positions, updating some information related to student financial aid, which you're probably doing, right now, getting that updated. Our plan is to follow up on that in the next audit. I think, Buddy, you may have already done this. Oh, you've already, yep, this one's completed already, getting a detail for individual charges to the colleges, and in the process of developing financial capabilities for the individual colleges to run their own reports. You've already completed that one. In terms of our basic internal audit plan that's not IT related, we have completed the bulk of our audit for this period. We've got a few that we're working on right now. One includes a president's office expense for the former president. That one's substantially done, but wasn't in the position to report on just yet. I think we have one or two things we're still following up on. Capital projects are in process, personal service contracts, and then leases. And we've kicked off the FY 2024 risk assessment and audit plan development, which our plan will be to present that to you in the September meeting, or hopefully the audit committee meets in August and then the September board meeting. In terms of technology, you'll see here, these are the audits we've completed so far this fiscal year. And these we'll be working on over the next 4 to 6 months. We did the IT resiliency audit work in lieu of some of these, and so we're working on these currently for future projects. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Joe, go ahead. I'm gonna let you first. Yeah.
I don't believe any questions about the audit. Looks good.
And Chris, you're working on your area diligently, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Lance, can I jump in and ask a question of the audit committee?
Yes.
In the risk assessments. So, I know in talking to Kelly, she had mentioned that there may be some changes in the board that occur typically at year end. So, and in the past, we've interviewed the president and usually 1 or 2 other people from the board. So, does the audit committee have an opinion on how we should proceed with the board specific interviews as part of the risk assessment?
That would be for you, Chair Stevens.
Well, yeah, I don't have. I have to refer to legal counsel and put her on the spot. Is that I don't. That's not my Well, there's a lot of things not my expertise, but that's certainly not one of them. It's my problem is I can find a lot of stuff, but fixing it is not one of them. Is so. Pam, what do you recommend in that regard? What's been done in the past?
So go ahead.
Give me to weigh in on the past, Pam, first. So in the past, we've done the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary.
Yeah, and that's fine. If that's fine with Barry, I'd like to have also because Joe is allegedly or keeps telling me he's an expert in technology, so I'd like to have him on there from the technology standpoint. But other than that, that's fine with me, if that's all right with the committee.
The only question would be in our mind is I can't remember if you have your elections in June or if you have them in September.
June.
Because I'd like to wait. Yeah, so we should wait till after the elections, I would think, to schedule those to make sure who's the chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Any other questions? Buddy, if you discuss and maybe some of the things that you and I have talked about in reference in the last month or so since the audit committee is, and I asked to bring before the committee. And I'd like for the Lance and him to stay on and listen to some of these informations going forth about budget preparations and what we are thinking about doing and stuff like that. So, buddy, I'm going to let you or Larry one to discuss some other issues. And you know, Lance, when the committee was formed, I think it's important for the audit, but there's a lot of financial decisions to be made out there. And so I've kind of not kept the audit, but put finance in there too. And basically, we certainly, as we look about the financial situation of KCTCS, we welcome your input and advice to making sure we're doing the right thing. So, buddy, go ahead. I'm going to let you or Larry make some comments.
Colleges, our system-wide recharges that we pull back from the colleges. So basically, what we're doing now is we're reaching out to both our internal, external auditors and now the state auditors to find some best practices that we could use moving forward. Maybe we're using the current best practices, but it would be nice to have kind of an outside review to help us out a little bit. Dr. Ferguson, you got anything?
The only thing is the biggest question about what should that carry forward or fund balance be for the system office. We've been given different percentages from different groups. Some say 15 to 20%. If you're familiar with our budget, which is last year was $1,066 million, then the amount that is in that carry forward may not be enough. And that presents a different challenge. So we have, why we're seeking the expertise, as Buddy articulated, to make sure we are calculating it the right way, that we have the right amount and a sufficient amount that would be in there for the system office. So those are the questions that we have. And like I mentioned earlier, Buddy and I are working almost daily, it seems, with the state auditor's office that they look at this for us.
And I think that the problem, Lance, and you've heard it before, the problem was board members would ask, what is the balance? And we never could get a correct information. It was always there, but we couldn't find it. So I've asked Buddy to assist me in preparing information coming before the board that is, I've used the comment to Buddy, if I can understand it, Buddy, I think most of the board members can also. So in that regard, to keep it very simple and to show what the balance is, you know, so it's a very complex thing, is because basically, and I think Dr. Ferguson told me in 2016 or 17, used to always come to the systems office. Now it goes to the colleges, and so we want to make sure that everybody is treated fairly, that if we're charging for services, colleges, and we're in excess, as you said, with the West Kentucky thing, that we find a way to get that back. And Buddy has done that for next year, where they're only charged for what they're actually using. So I hope that we're more transparent and coming forth with for all of the colleges. So
I'm glad you asked that question, Buddy, because I was kind of curious if they knew what was going on and if they were looking out for any other potential problem spots or areas of concern. This is Barry.
Yeah. So we have had a few conversations with Lance and his team in regards to some of the opportunities we have. I do believe that this current risk assessment that they will get ready to start doing will actually bring out a little bit more of that information and provide them detail from various other individuals besides myself. So that when they talk to the board members and other members of KCTCS within the organization, when they do their risk assessment, I think that they'll get a lot more information and then collate the data and then move forward on what they see best fit for us moving forward.
Lance, go ahead and say something there. Jump in, buddy.
I mean, that's just, we've had some conversations. We've not looked at any details. You know, from the carry forward issue, I think you're probably going to get somebody that's going to give you a couple of best practices. And I think they're guessing, and they may be. Pam has a question with her hand up very quietly. Thank you, Pam.
Yes, I snuck it up there. So I feel like we're kind of getting far afield on our agenda, and I don't want to compromise anything that the state auditor may be looking into right now. So I think that probably it would be best to reserve this conversation for later. Once we know what is happening with the state auditor.
That's the reason we employ her and have her in all these meetings, Lance, that when I start rambling and asking questions, she can nicely say, we need to go to something else, Mr. Stevens. So Pam, thank you once again.
You're welcome.
Any other, Joe, do you have any questions, or any other members have any questions or comments?
No, just that I really enjoy this process of going through the audit. I do like when they find findings. It, to me, it opens a door. It gives us I guess, a path to travel, especially in IT. You know, sometimes you don't know what all's out there to fix, and having these audits kind of points you in the right direction. As an IT guy, I think it's great. Thank you.
All right. Barry, you got anything you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. Larry or Buddy?
I'm good.
No, sir.
Okay. Pam, you've got the closing comments, so.
All right. Are we at the end of our agenda? Because I'm sorry, but I see lovely faces. Have we got any other items on our agenda?
No, I think that is all of them.
All right.
And we will say this, Pam, wait a minute. Joe, I slighted you the last time when we made the presentation of the committee to the board. So Buddy will be there, but I'm asking you to make the presentation to the board in June. Buddy will give you all the information and guide you through that. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Then I think you guys, they're going to be there at the June meeting, correct?
Lance, I'm going to leave that up to Buddy. Buddy, what did we decide about that?
I'll be on Teams.
We'll have them on Teams.
Okay.
In case there is any additional questions after Regent Hurd gives his presentation from the audit committee.
Yeah. So yeah, you will get all that information, Joe, from Buddy, and follow his lead, and you'll be all right.
All right, I'll give it my best shot.
So
We're
this
done.
sounds like we are ready to adjourn. Excuse me. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second. And everyone in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. By consensus, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lance. Thanks, Christopher.